Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. Another episode today with a laptop. I have the 13-inch MacBook Pro M1 version. So if you recall, last year I tested the 13-inch MacBook Pro with the Intel chip. So today I'm going to cover whether you should consider buying the M1 or stick with the Intel depending on your needs. And I know there's a lot of rumors and we're expecting maybe a 14-inch and a new 16-inch revision toward the end of this year. But the fact remains, if you need a laptop now, you can't wait for that. So this video is going to cover the M1 MacBook Pro and whether you should pick it up right now. So I'll go through the specs first. It's the 13.3 inch. It has a resolution of 2560 by 1600. It has 8 gigabytes of RAM. There is a 16 gigabyte RAM option. I didn't go with that, and I'll go into why in a little bit when I do the performance review. This one has the 512 gigabyte SSD. When you get it and everything's loaded, you end up with about 490 usable on it. And the specs are very different from the Intel versions, as with the Intel version, you get 4 ports. You only get 2 here on the M1 version, so that's one definite difference there. The battery life with them using the M1 chip is unbelievable. It's double. So I got about 5 hours of use with my Intel. If I use it throughout the day, I get about 10 hours of strong use with this one. They listed at 20, but I'm talking about you got multiple apps open, you're using it all day, you get a solid 10 hours out of this thing. Another one of the upgrades they did is the onboard camera actually is superior, which is kind of a weird thing, but for some reason that camera is much better on this one than my Intel one, so I'm happy about that. It's definitely passable for online Zoom, stuff like that, or even light streaming online, so that's a good thing. So this is an actual test from the webcam and the built-in microphone from the M1 MacBook Pro. As you can see, I don't really look like a potato. I mean, I'm ugly, you can't really help that, but you can hear me pretty clearly and it looks good to me when I'm sending it to other people. Much improved over previous MacBook Pro 13-inch and much improved over even their PC counterparts. And of course, the Touchbar makes a return, which after 3 generations of laptops with Touchbar for myself, I still don't think I've pushed it one time other than the volume. That's literally the only thing I've ever used it for is volume. So that's kind of silly. One thing to be aware of, because it's the M1 chip, it is not an x86 Intel processor, so some software has not been optimized yet. Now Apple has opened up the Rosetta translation software, so basically anything can be adapted to it, but it's up to the publisher whether they've taken that upon themselves. So I will just caution you, if you have specific use software or proprietary software, you're definitely going to run that for your tech people before you pick this up, or you might be disappointed. Most of the stuff, Microsoft Office, some of the games you'll see that I played and other stuff works no problem. So let's get into performance. That's what this thing is all about. So with less specs, how does it hold up? Well, in short, very freaking well. I put it through its paces versus my other laptops and some of the results were shocking actually. I still use an Alienware 17-inch with a 2080 Super in it, and that thing is no joke. So Final Cut Pro has been optimized for the M1 chip. Render times are ridiculous. A 5-minute 4K video I'm rendering out in about 3 minutes and 15 seconds at 4K. That's awesome. As I mentioned earlier, the battery, I get about 9 to 10 hours of use, and on the Intel one I was only getting 5. Let me explore gaming a little bit. Now, of course, the only game that ever mattered in the history of life is, wow, World of Warcraft. So being my favorite game, I went ahead and threw that at it. Now at first I thought I would have to use some kind of add-on or something being M1. Nope. It jumped right in, loaded up just with a default Blizzard installer, no problem. So I fired it up and I went straight for it. I put the settings up at 7, which is typically where I play because that's where you get most of the effects without really killing your computer. Now, the first thing I'll notice is the computer pretty much chills at about 30 degrees Celsius during normal tasks, maybe 40 to 50 if you're multitasking. I actually got it up into the 90s when I was playing WoW. Now, that pretty much matches as on par with my PC counterparts for gaming, but did the performance match? Let's find out. So as you can see here, I was actually getting, the screen itself is limited to 60 Hertz. So 60 FPS is all that I'm gonna pull out of the game on the native screen here. But what I had was a 144 external monitor I plugged it into, and we bumped up the frame rate to unlimited. What did that leave me with? Well, on level 7, I was able to get 120 frames per second, which is equivalent to my 2070 Super that uses about 8 times the power of this MacBook. That is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And when you factor in the fact that the Intel MacBook Pro costs about $500 more for the same thing and could run the same game at about a third of that rate. Legit gaming laptop that is this thick. Unbelievable. So in conclusion, if you need a laptop right now, you're gonna be hard pressed to do better than this. And I would find it very rare that somebody might regret picking this up. It's only $1,300. You're basically paying the same thing as the top of the line iPad, and cheaper in some cases when you realize you don't have to buy all the accessories. So it's an amazing value. The battery life is a game changer. You won't find anything close to it. Even the Dell XPS, which is like their version of the MacBook Pro for PC, it can't touch what this thing does in performance. So you can run legit games on it. You can do all your business. You can do all your homework. This is the first MacBook Pro that I feel like could pull some of the market from PC users over because of the fact you don't need two separate computers now to game. This is amazing, and the price, it really can't be beat. So what do you guys think about this? What are your thoughts on this? Something you want to check out? Does the fact that it's a proprietary chip scare you? You don't care? Or maybe you work with software that just hasn't moved over yet. But I find myself using my PC less and less and less because of the fact that I can now game on this one. So it's a very weird thing. In the meantime, appreciate you all swinging by the channel. Make sure you sub. Check out if there's other videos you're interested in down below, and I appreciate your time. Everybody have a great week. I'm out of here.